Hello and welcome to the Monday night stream. This is our interview section. So we've had cosplayers on, we've had artists and writers. So now we're going into the gaming side of the con with our first miniature painter. I'd like to welcome David Dai Hulme onto the
Dial do, Die Hume will do, yeah.
onto the
No,
stream. And
good to be here.
as it's gaming related, Adam's tagged out and Simon's tagging in. So,
I'm Spartacus. Hello.
so I guess we'll start at the beginning. How did you get into wargaming?
It's incredibly cliched. That everyone says it. Very early '90s, Hero Quest, Milton Bradley, kind of everyone's route into it. In school, one of the guys suddenly on Toy Day in my primary school, one of the boys brought in Hero Quest, and I was hooked as soon as I saw those dodgy goblins and the gargoyle slash bloodthirster. I was like, oh man, this is brilliant. I went home and said, Mum, I've got to have this game. And endless family feuds later, I started. Went on from there. I picked up a couple of models. Went in, from back in the day in Swansea with just the comic shop and the model shop, picking up models every Saturday morning. When as I got older, just started painting models with my brothers, playing games. Worked a little bit in the very early 2000s for Games Workshop for a year or so, and then just never stopped, never looked back. Really, been playing and painting for 30 years.
It's a familiar story.
It is. It's the same story most people say. Yeah.
But bar the working for Games Workshop, that's pretty
Yeah.
clear.
It was only for 9 months. It was a dark 9 months.
They never wanted me. I gave up in the end and started my own shop. I was like, do you know what? If they won't have me, right.
Smart move.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the first thing you ever painted? Can you remember?
Yes, it was a Space Fleet Eldar Wraith ship. The very,
Nice.
very first thing I painted. I don't know why I picked it up. Don't know why I painted it with. I think I was using felt tip pens over bare metal at the time, as a 10-year-old want to do. But yeah, that's kind of my first model, adding color to a model, I guess. But yeah.
I think mine were Space Crusade Space Marines in Humbrol enamels because my dad was into airfix at the time. So yeah, we never got paint off of those though.
You won't do those enamels, yeah.
How about you, Ricky?
So with my brief dabble when I was a kid, I bought the second edition orcs off someone from the starter set. I didn't paint any of them, I don't think, but I did go down, and one of the only models I bought other than those was the Orc War Buggy, and I did paint that very badly. So the old one with like the pole with the flag and the guy with the flamer on the back, and that was basically my bridge back into Warhammer a couple of years ago, because my nephew, I told him about this because he was showing interest in it, and my nephew bought me the new Boomdacker Snazwagon, and he was like, "It's
Cool.
not for you to play," but I thought, because you always tell me about when you used to collect back in the day, um, when you always mention that buggy, so I thought you could buy it, build it, paint it, and now I'm surrounded by boxes and boxes of plastic. So
And
yeah.
we all are, I think.
So when did you realise you were good at painting then, Di? Because I mean, we'll come on to it later on. You're now a commission painter and all sorts of other stuff. But what first gave you the thought that
good at painting? I don't know if I'm good at painting. I'm efficient at painting. I'm a quick and neat painter, and I think I'm not going to ever win any Golden Demon Awards or anything, Crystal Brush Awards or anything like that. But so long as you're neat, so long as you're quick, you get armies done. And for years I would be playing games with grey plastic, hordes and nothing to show for it. It was just that I'd have massive armies, spend ages sticking them together, and then I'd look at this horde of grey plastic and think I'm never going to paint this. And I think maybe in my early 20s, I suddenly started thinking, I've got to start painting this stuff. I can't just keep, I love the games, but I think the creative side of it has kind of evolved as I've got older. I've started thinking, I think like painting is probably one of the most relaxing things you can do. Well, for me anyway. And if I can combine relaxing with, churning out some tidy looking armies, I think you're onto a winner, really.
Yeah.
So yeah,
there is that sort of focus you get if you're sort of into your painting, isn't there? Where you sort of zone out. It's almost
yeah,
like meditation
definitely.
a bit.
Oh, 100% meditation. Yeah.
But no, it's nice to hear that, because we get a lot of people come into the shop and say sort of, oh, I'll never paint it that good, and I'm always telling them, you don't have to paint it Golden Demon Sandal like it's on the box.
No, not at
You've
all.
just got to learn to paint it neatly. And so
Yeah.
I get there's sort of different commission painters, and some will do that sort of Angel Geraldez super job, and some will sort of do just a good job.
That's it. I mean, from my experience the last couple of months of doing this, that people, yeah, sure, it's nice people will pay a lot of money to have that, Angel Geraldez kind of, perfect display piece for your gaming cabinet. The vast majority of us want to play games with tidy looking armies. And when you're standing a social distance away from the table, looking at your army, you've really, as long as it looks neat and kind of uniform and stylish and it pops, that's the main thing. As long as it pops, I think you've got a good looking army.
So on that, I did actually commission. Like I feel like you were just talking about me, because I got a display case next to me right now with like I was saying, most of it is painted by me, but I had that thing where I looked at the two models on the top shelf and thought, I can't do these justice, and I did commission Gazgal and Mortarion, because
Nice.
yeah, so like I get where you're
Yeah,
coming from. So
that's it. And I think if if you're willing to put the time in and paint your army, if you know that your skill set isn't up to those kind of focal point centerpiece models, I get why people want to commission paint just that model to have it a particular standard. I get that. Yeah.
I've always shied away from getting any of my stuff done commission painting. Although we were chatting just before the stream, and I was saying how not a good painter I am, and I'm very workmanlike, and my stuff has colours in the right places. But yeah, I'm never even going to get on the roster for awards, let alone win awards. But yeah, it's always struck me that if I were to get stuff commission painted, then it would stand out so heavily from everything else I do.
Yeah.
That's what would always put me off it. So I think the sort of commission painting you're talking about, the sort of entire army at a reasonable price, so it's consistent, is sort of a much more useful service to your average gamer than the play through the nose amazing piece.
Yeah, and there is the time sink as well. I mean, to get an army painted to an incredibly high kind of display quality level is going to take months and months and months. And most of us, with our kind of fleeting kind of magpie kind of natures, we need our army painted quite quickly, and we want to get it on the table. We spent a good sum of money buying these models. We want to game with it, and so if I can knock an army out in a month or a month and a half, I think that's what people are after, really. They don't want to be waiting 12 months to have their army back. They want to play with it as soon as possible.
So on the subject of painting then, what do you have particular favoured range of paints, or are you sort of a bit of a I'll use whatever's right for the job, or are you
Well, I used to, as most people are, I used to be, Citadel paints all the way. They're painting kind of paint by numbers kind of method, where you put down your base, you put down your wash, you put your layer paint on it, then you edge highlight. That that is a great way of painting, and I kind of learned, that was my bread and butter for painting for years. But as I've kind of developed as a painter, I suppose, without sounding too pretentious, I started discovering other ranges. Obviously, Vallejo's kind of range is enormous, and you can kind of get lost in their yellows and their blues and their purples. But there's also you've got to look at art supply shops as well. Look beyond miniature paints. Look at things like Liquitex inks, and look at they're kind of the actual, just like artist acrylics. Make your own washes. That part of that kind of DIY freeform kind of nature to painting is something I've really grown to love a little bit. The idea of oil pin washes, and kind of going back to the old kind of washing enamels with methylated spirits, things like that. It's a different style of painting that I don't know, makes you feel a bit more of an artist if you want to feel a bit full of yourself for a moment. It's cool.
Yeah, no,
So-
that sounds all. Sorry, Ricky.
No, I was just gonna go. So have you now moved more to are you exclusively airbrush, or do you
No,
go back and forth?
It's just another arrow in the quiver airbrush, really. I mean, I can't physically airbrush an entire model. I will use it to get down the base colors. I'll use it for gradients. Let me give you an example, right? So this is a war. I've got 3 war walkers I've been working on recently. My camera's rubbish. I'm sorry, but
we'll pop some pictures into the chat later on.
So this model was literally it was like a wraithbone spray. I then kind of, do you guys know what I mean by what's the term? Like a kind of a zenithal kind of masking and kind of area shadow. I can't think of the term. When you underspray something? I don't know, whatever it is. I use pink. So over the bone, I sprayed it pink, and then over the pink, when I've kind of got all the shadow and shady areas kind of catch it there a little bit better. All the shadows are pink. I'll kind of then glaze it over the top with yellow. All the pink. I don't remember from back in the school days when you were messing around with like fluorescent paint markers. When you got a pink and you put like a yellow luminous over the top of it, it went orange. So all that pink, all that shadowy pink becomes orange, and kind of like the yellow becomes a filter color over the top.
That's
so
cool,
you can't do that with a brush. You can only do that with an airbrush. And so once I've got the model kind of shaded and the gradients filled in with the airbrush, I'll then hit it with the brush, and I'll go over like panel colors with the brush. I'll use detail work with a brush, but it's just a tool. Like I've only been airbrushing for about a year. Before that, it was exclusively brushwork. I've just learned so many techniques, and there are so many videos out there on how to airbrush. And I recommend anyone that's thinking of getting into airbrush, please watch 30 or 40 hours of airbrushing videos before you even spend a penny on an airbrush. It really is essential.
What would be your recommended airbrush for starters? Because I know there'll be people watching thinking, "Ooh,
I feel like I'm whatever you do." I know that this is going to sound really bad, and hopefully I won't get sued for this. Never buy an Iwata Neo. All right. So many videos will tell you the Neo. It's Iwata is a known band. It's a brand, everyone knows this brand, but a Neo isn't actually made by them. It's kind of stamped by them, and their airbrush isn't very good. Right. But everyone says it's the best starter airbrush. I completely disagree. I really think the best if you're on a budget, buy one of these kind of bulk deals. You can kind of get these little bundles, like £50 for a compressor plus an airbrush that's used for doing like fingernails and things like that. They're brilliant to start with. I had this I don't know, I think it must be about £50 bundle with the airbrush, the compressor, the hose, the needle, and everything. And I used it for ages, and it was brilliant. And it died in the end because I used it so much. But when you're first just picking up the basic techniques of airbrushing, something like that is ideal. It really is. Beyond that, when you want to start getting into decent airbrushing, my wonderful fiance bought me a Harder and Steenbeck Infinity Ultra, and it's fantastic airbrush. But when it comes to airbrushing, you get what you pay for, really, a little bit. So you kind of got to drop a decent amount of money into a good airbrush, a good compressor, and a lot of airbrush paints before you can really turn out some good results, really.
Cool. So you mentioned before we got started that you were between commissions at the moment.
Yeah.
What's the last thing you worked on for anyone then?
A Flesh Eater Quartz army. I don't know if you've got a photo of any of my Flesh Eater Quartz work.
We'll you sent us a bunch of photos. We'll drop some of those up into the
chat. That was a really fun project.
I was going to say, I've dropped a Discord link into the chat so that people can go to the Discord afterwards, and we'll put all the photos up. We've also got a comment from Chris Cricks, who's saying that he totally agrees with the Iwata Neo. So
yeah, I bet he does. Not a great brush. I think Chris had the same problems I did with it. So one of my old wargaming buddies. I finished it was really crazy, actually. I told the guy it was going to take 3 months, and to kind of sell myself a little bit here, I painted it in 5 weeks. It was a 2,250 point Flesh Eater Quarters army, and this is a horde army. It was absolutely enormous, and it was mostly airbrushed. It was yeah, it was a lot of fun to do. I mean, I airbrushed all different kinds of cool, kind of fleshy, earthy tones, and then just chucked blood for the blood god at it. There was gore everywhere. It was fantastic. It was freakish, really Cronenberg-esque. Corpses crawling out the ground, all kind of gravestones, all kind of. It was brilliant fun to do. Brilliant fun.
Excellent. And you're also involved in doing some 3D printing with some other people, because you've got a website which again we'll link to later on. So post-production will sort all that out, but.
Yeah, I'm not the printing guy. I've got two really good friends, the brothers Joe Bayliss of the kind of Swansea music scene, and his brother Sean. They are 3D printing masters, and at the moment they've managed to sculpt a couple of really cool fantasy football sculpts on our website, Annwn Studios. They're really cool and lots of fun, but they're also open for if anyone's just looking to have the random like Hero Forge models printed, or any sculpts that they found on any STL files that they want to print. Those guys will print it out at a really competitive price.
Cool. We'll pop a link up to your website in just a bit. So 3D printing. What drew you guys to that then?
It's I think the kind of supply issues of lockdown. I mean, you must understand this a little bit yourself, but like it's been so difficult to get a hold of stuff that I think a lot of people are turning to 3D printing to not just get the cool bespoke kind of like add-ons for their models, but just get hold of models that are long out of print. I mean, especially in the kind of Warhammer circles, a lot of the old Forge World stuff is really get hold of these days. A lot of their ranges have been dropped, and people are turning to STL sites for these kind of old sculpts and old prints, not copies, but just interpretations of.
Yeah, I mean, for myself, I've recently had another local laser printer putting together a Warhammer scale, a 40K scale Iron Eagle gyrocopter for the squats, because I found something that looked very much like one of that on Thingiverse, and so I'm having someone make one of that to go with a scratch build that I've been working on Wednesdays.
Nice.
So I'm hoping to get that this week, so that might feature on this week's stream. But yeah, I really think that 3D printing is going to make more of an appearance in our hobby as the technology gets better and better. And I've got this vision somewhere in the back of my head that in like 10 years' time, you'll come to the Gamers Emporium and go, I want that model. I'll press a button and I'll print that model for you.
Like some kind of Star Trek replicator.
I can see it going that way. It's the technology's getting better all the time.
I think so.
And I think it's not too long before someone like Games Workshop jumps on it and properly tries to do something sort of industrial with it.
I think so. They got to get materials right. I think right now, I think sometimes some of the resin can be quite brittle. When they print it out, and that has put me off in the past. But I've seen the stuff that Joe and Sean are dropping out, and the quality even year on year is improving in the resins and the stuff that's coming out. It's amazing.
But that's the beauty of it. Like if you want to buy like Forge World stuff, that's all resin anyway, isn't it? So and some of it is really
fragile, that
stuff. Really small and like spindly bits. I'm looking at the Nurgle Demon, which is resin.
Try putting together a Death Corps of Krieg army, honestly. That'll drive you nuts.
I had a friend who had a Death Corps of Krieg army and a rogue office chair rolled across his room and took the entire shelf out. Oh, there were so many tears.
I bet.
So,
excuse me.
Do you still play, or has painting taken it?
I haven't played in a year, same as most people, but I'm a member of the Swansea Wargame and Board Game Club, and up until last March, every single Wednesday I was there wargaming. I miss it more than anything else, more than visiting my parents. I miss wargaming, I really do. If I could play, the second the doors reopen to household visits, I'm going to have people around. We're going to play games. We're going to have a great time. I love it. I've always been a wargamer. at times more than a painter, and it kind of fluctuates between the two. But recently, obviously, the last 12 months, I've just been a painter. But wargaming is definitely very important to me.
So now you are a painter. Do you still have a pile of shame? Do you still have that big pile of things you should have painted already?
No, it's not really. Not really. It's
finished that off.
I have less of a pile of shame and more savings because I've been painting other people's models. I've been scratching that kind of magpie itch with other people's models. It's fantastic. It really is. Like I've always wanted to do a flesh eater quartz army. I don't need to now. I've painted one, for somebody else. It's great.
It's one of those things, isn't it? It's like everyone's had to be painters this last year if you wanted to do anything with the thing. Mind you, I thought, oh, I'm going to use this time not to buy anything and just paint. I got a pile of shame up there. Yeah, just looking at me, it's not even built. But I did hear someone say the other day, we shouldn't be calling it shame. We should be calling it a pile of opportunity because it's more positive.
Yeah, that is absolutely. But if you ever looking for anyone to painting that stuff, just give me a shout.
Okay.
So going back to the painting, then, what sort of prices can people expect to pay for your services? What
it's really difficult. It's really difficult to say. I mean, everyone, I remember when we were putting the website together, we were kind of discussing a pricing structure. And if you look at any commission painter's website, I challenge you to find a rigid painting structure on it because it is really right. It's almost like a triangle, right? You could have three things. There's three things, right? There is speed, quality, and price. Pick two. You can have those two. You can't have the third one. You really can't. Like I can paint an army for you, and I can do it to the best of my ability, right? And I will do it either cheaply and quickly or slowly and fast. I think realistically, if I'm going to paint models for somebody, I don't want to be doing it for less than minimum wage. I don't want to be throwing an hour's work into something and being like and scraping £5 an hour and then realizing, oh, I'm using my own paints to do this as well. You're almost taking a loss and a cut at that point.
Yeah.
So it is tricky. But like a 2,000 point army, like the Flesh Eater Quartz, came to about £300 maybe for a 2,000 point horde army. It's not terrible, I don't think.
No, it's when you consider how much that army will have cost in the models. It's
about the same price again, I think, to paint army, really.
That seems reasonable for the amount of time that it takes to do it. And if you as a customer look at it and go, do you know what? I don't want to spend the month that's going to take. I've got better things to do with my life. I'll outsource that. 3 months, 3 years.
Yeah. But that's it. I mean, I'm lucky. Like I can paint a unit of 10 Space Marines probably twice as fast as someone of the equivalent painting level. Because I've honed my skills to a point where speed and efficiency is quite high. So whereas I can charge probably a cheaper price than most people because I can paint very quickly.
Yeah,
and as you said earlier, I do lose myself in it. Like sometimes I don't sleep great, so I could be up at like 2 a.m. painting models. I've got a unit of 30 night goblins that I painted over the last month. Every single part of those night goblins I painted between the hours of 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. They were literally night goblins. They were, they were every bit of it.
But go on, Si.
I was going to say, this is a sideline at the moment. Do you see it ever becoming something that becomes full time?
I'd love it to. I'm fortunate. I've got a workshop. I've got permanent painting space. I would love for it to. It's just a matter of me stop being because for a long time I was quite humble with my painting. I didn't like to promote it. I didn't like to, if I had a lot of like word of mouth kind of interest, and my friend, a lot of good mates would be like, "Oh, can you paint this for me?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, no worries, I'll do it." And it would be like, "Oh, I'll give you some money for it." I'm like, "Oh, if you're sure," that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm slowly realizing that there is a market out there. People do want as kind of gamers are aging, we're kind of like money rich and time poor. As when we were kids, it was the other way around. So people do want their stuff painted, and they do want a reasonable job, and they want it done reasonably quickly as well. And so, I'd love to. I'd love to pick up a couple of jobs now over the next couple of months and see what we can do with it.
Cool. I'm just thinking, you got any other immediate questions, Ricky? 'Cause I'm running to the end of my pre-prepared stuff, and we're now into ad territory.
So, what was I gonna say? So, you can find all of we did put your details up earlier, so like
Cool.
it is up on our social medias. But
Yeah.
do you want to say how you formed Annwn?
Yeah, well, about a year ago, I sold a couple of armies on eBay, painted. This is quite fortunate. I sold 90% painted armies on eBay, right? I think this is an idea if I could have a future. You sell an army 90% painted, and people look at you and go, "Oh, can I give you a couple extra quid to paint the final 10%?" You're like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do that." And then once you've got that hook, they're like, "Oh, I've also got another army for you to paint." So it kind of started rolling from that. And I got in touch with Joe, and I was like, "Oh, I'm thinking of doing, making a little side hustle with this." And he's like, "Oh, well, I'd be interested in that." I'm like, Joe's a great painter as well. And he was like, "I fancy, if you ever fancy splitting a project, we'll do it." We did. We painted a load of, I don't know if you saw the Dungeons and Lasers terrain set I did for Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
So, between the two of us, we got that done. And it was lovely, sharing a project. And then his brother, Sean, suddenly decided, said that he was interested in 3D sculpting his own range of fantasy football figures, and we're like, why don't we just turn this into something? Turn this into like a little Swansea-based, painting and modeling kind of company. Because although there are quite a few, locally based painters, it's quite difficult to find them. So I thought, check your name out there, get a bit of promotion.
It's the way to do it. I mean, that is the thing. I think a lot of the painters do sort of almost rely on word of mouth as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we've advertised a few over the years on the store notice board, and once the store's back open for people, you're welcome to stick your card up there as well.
Certainly will do. Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's because, as you were saying earlier, about the difficulty of the pricing with anything. It's quite hard to have a website that advertises the services when the price is.
Yeah, it is. It really is. You've got to have a conversation. That's why there's just, if you're interested in having models painted, just message. Don't be offended if I say, "Oh, I probably won't be able to do it for that price," to be honest, because I'm going to be, living this for the next couple of weeks. But also, feel free to say, if, if I pay this much, what kind of job can you do for me? And it's kind of like it is a kind of a very informal contract and a kind of a just a a bit of a gamer's agreement, of how much things are going to cost. Yeah.
Yeah. Like for example, the guy I got to paint Mortarion, he gave me three prices. It was tabletop, high quality, and in between. So
Yeah.
because it was like based on what you were saying that you took into account that I was gonna put in there, so didn't want to put under minimum wage and
Yeah.
and supplies. So
That's it.
so like yeah,
Paint's
it
not
is
cheap.
no.
They
But
feel cheap at the time, like £3 a pot, and then you're like, all right, but I need 25 of these, and then it gets really expensive really quick. Yeah.
and then you sit down and you find there's that one color that you didn't pick up.
Always that one color. Yeah.
So have you got any projects that you would love, like a dream project?
I'm painting my dream project right now. I've always wanted to do an Ayandan yellow and blue Eldar army. And it's my own personal passion project, and it's been coming together for about 6 months now. I bought it all outright. I swore I'd never do this, but I bought it all outright a couple of months ago. About 6 months ago, I started, and I'm slowly chipping away at it. So if you see any of my blue and yellow Eldar stuff, that is my own personal vanity project that I'm throwing a lot of time into, a lot of effort. But I would love to do. I'd love to do some historical stuff. I'd love if anyone wants, some Greeks or some Romans or some Celts or anything like that. I'd love to do some historical stuff.
Well, you've picked a good time with it because Warlord Games are just bringing out a new edition of SPQR, which is a skirmish historical game.
Yeah.
Some of the boys up the club have already sort of been poking me for when can they get the rulebook for that. So yeah. Keep mentioning to them that you're after doing some historicals.
I know those guys. They are always painting. So they probably won't need my help at all. But yeah, if anyone ever, I'll paint anything though. I love painting. It chills me out. It gets me through these weird days that we find ourselves in at the moment. So yeah.
Do you see yourself adding Titan to your Vanity Eldar or?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a book which I love. I'm not a massive fan of Black Library books, I gotta be honest, but there's one book called Valdor by Valdor or Valdor, I don't know how to pronounce it, by a guy something or other. Can't remember his name. But it's the best Eldar book. If you're into Eldar, right, read that book. And as I was reading it, right, I was writing down a list of all these guys' all the characters' names and what they do, and they're these two they're called the Gemini pilots, the two Reaver Titans, not Reaver Titans, what the elder one's called. They're small phantoms. There's like two of them. They always come in pairs. I'm normally really good at remembering this stuff, but I can't remember right now. There's two of these kind of like small phantom titans. I can't remember what they're called, and they're fantastic. And I definitely want two. It's going to cost me a fortune, but I want two of them in my army. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Has anyone in the chat got any questions that they'd like to ask? Whilst we wait.
While I think about that, what would be the thing you'd least like to paint?
Space Marines. No, I'll paint Space Marines are easy to paint. They're an easy ticket. But I painted a lot of Space Marines over the years. Yeah, Ultramarines, yeah. Blue's actually a lovely colour to paint, so I actually don't mind Ultramarines. White scars. I don't fancy painting white scars. I'll do it if someone pays me the money, but I don't fancy it.
Oh, white is horrible to get right.
It can be. It really can be.
Chris has come back in, and it's Valador by Guy Haley.
That's the one. It's a great book.
Yeah. You were talking about experimenting with other non like Citadel and stuff earlier. Have you got anything like, for example, my nephew wants to paint some Imperial Fist, but he wanted to get, but obviously Citadel don't do a yellow spray anymore. So have you got anything like that, you'd other alternative sprays that for basing that you would recommend?
The army painter sprays are fantastic. Their range of colours are brilliant. Halford's car sprays I use quite often as well. They're brilliant for priming various Space Marine colours. And you can't really the grit on them is not great, but when you're painting like flat Space Marines, it doesn't really matter too much. These days, I put everything through an airbrush. Though, if I'm going to paint any kind of block colours, it'll go straight through the airbrush, and you can get some pretty cheap, robust airbrushes that do that job pretty well. If you're not worrying about like fine detail, fine motor control at that point, you're just blasting on a yellow. Pick up a very cheap airbrush and chuck some yellow through it, and it'll come out and it'll land on your model in the right areas.
Yeah, demonic yellow is, I think, the closest to Imperial Fists in the army painting range, and we do Kansas spray of that if he wants it.
Yeah.
You should know that.
He should know,
So,
to be fair, he's had a year off, give or take.
He's actually built, and like it's always been his joke that he's never going to paint. Like he started a Skaven army, and he's got the space wolves, and he was just going to leave it all grey. And then even though he's pretty good at doing it when he puts his mind to it, but and there's me, I hate doing it, and I'm trying so that I've not got a pile of grey.
There's just such an enormous sense of satisfaction of completing a unit, even if it's just a squad of Space Marines, whatever. Just just getting that unit completed is such a wonderful feeling. I don't think any part of wargaming gets to that level once you've finished a unit or something.
Oh, my own personal problem is I always do the characters and the special guys first, and then
So
left with the bulk infantry. Like, oh, now I've got to paint 30 guys.
Yeah, I've literally forced myself because with my Elder army, I painted 20 Guardians off the bat. I painted 10 Dire Avengers. I painted tanks. I've got loads of characters to do. I've got loads of interesting Wraith units to do, but all the boring stuff I deliberately did straight away. Just so whilst my enthusiasm was really high, getting all the boring stuff.
That's what I've been trying to do, but like I painted a load of. Well, I painted my buggies first, and that was alright. And then I started painting like the war bikes, and that started to become a bit of a grind. So I went on to infantry and painted a load of boys, and I hated boys by the end of it. So I swapped to grots, and then I hated grots. And then I thought I'll have a break from my orcs and paint some death guards. So I painted like
More
30
green.
poxwalkers. So like yeah, and then I
Yeah.
kind of burnt myself out on painting for a bit.
He's a glutton for punishment. Just another thoughts occurred to me with the 3D printing. Where do you see that going for Annwn Studios? And are you going to expand the fantasy football-esque tie-in ranges, or are you
Yeah,
going
I
to
think so. Well,
or
they've
look at other game systems to tie in
definitely
with?
look at other game systems. I think fantasy football at the time before Christmas was quite popular. The new edition had dropped, and there was a couple of kind of gaps in the market. We saw the Acorn, the squirrel, was a gap in the market. There wasn't a model for him. He was a real popular release for us. We brought out the troll, the really spiky kind of Black Orc troll, which we brought out. Yeah, that was a really nice model. But we have definitely talked about third-party kits. We're all three of us are kind of really interested in the 30k kind of Age of Darkness kind of era, and there are so many like third-party kits we'd like to bring out for kind of the legions and the specific unit types that currently don't exist.
I tell you another one that might be worth a look, because we often get people in asking for it, is mixed unit guardsmen. So
Yeah.
guardsmen and women heads as a sort of a good selection bag of sort of varied unit faces.
Yeah,
Might be one to consider setting Joe on, because the number of people asking for that don't want sort of the over feminized female guards heads that are
yeah,
going
yeah,
around,
yeah.
or
I know what
sort
you
of
mean.
the crazy ones. You just
I
like
like the opposite. In fact, I'd love to bring out a range of abhumans. You know, the whole kind of Imperial Guard beastmen kind of things.
Yeah.
I know that I've seen a couple of people in Swansea recently. I've been looking at Imperial Guard beastmen, but I'd love to bring out a whole range of kind of like, because if you think about it, if you've got like the Catachan set, you just had the chest. You could slap some legs and some beastie arms on that, and a kind of a goat head, and you've got a guard squad right there. You know, so I think I'd love to. I'm going to try and keep poking that idea.
Yeah, because you used to back in the day chuck gauze to them, didn't you? But
yeah.
Less doable these days because the kits have diverged so wildly.
Yeah, sadly.
Yeah. And back to like my nephew, is always on about like he would love to do like is it Death Skulls, the orcs that work with Humies?
Blood axes.
Blood axes, yeah, blood axes, and doing them in like Imperial Guards like costumes and stuff.
Be fitting. You
So
see
like,
the new snakebite looking orcs that they released?
yeah.
They look fantastic. They
Doesn't
really
really
do.
fit with what I'm doing, but I still want them.
Yeah, I love the idea of them. Sounds really cool.
Yeah, it looks great. I was hoping for a new boys kit, mind.
Yeah.
But
Oh Christ! I want new Guardians. I'm playing with Guardians that came out in 1997 at the moment. You know, so yeah, I feel your pain on that one.
yeah, so like that's it, isn't it? It's like you see the polls all the time about like what kit should be done next, and it's always Orc Boys, Elder Guardians, Corn Berserkers.
Squats. Speaking of which, I've got a 5,000 point epic squat army, and I absolutely
Nice.
adore it. It's retro as anything, and I when you said about the Iron Eagle gyrocopter, I was like, I've got a squadron of 7 of them.
Yeah, no, my current Imperial Guard army is squats because I wasn't getting rid of my squats when they phased them out. So,
No,
you guys
definitely
just
not.
joined the guard.
And I had an idea for that as well. Speaking of 3D printed bits, I painted a Caradron Overlord army just before early last year. And when I was putting those together, I was thinking, how easy would these be to make it turn into squats? You know, they were just fantastic ones.
Just some different lasgun wielding arms, and
Absolutely,
you'd be away.
that'd be brilliant.
Chris says he hates those squats.
He does.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see them bring back sort of epic to go along with their re-release Titanicus as well. That would be
I'd love that.
A nice return if they go down it. I thought they were going to do more of it when they brought out the Aeronautica, but seem to sort of stalled a bit on that.
It was a great game. It's one of the first games that I properly got into. Obviously, I picked up the odd model when I was, when I was young. But I think the old second edition Space Marine was my first kind of big box game I got into. Played that to death in the early 90s.
Yeah, it always scared me because I had no idea how to paint that small back then. My phone motor control skill wasn't the best anyway, but painting things that small, I was just like, you even.
Oh, it's a lot easier than it seems because you can get away at 6 mil. You can get away with a lot.
Yeah. Providing the colours are in roughly the right areas, no one's going to notice from that far away.
Absolutely. Painting eyes on 6 mil models is
I have trouble.
I don't do that.
Eyes? Do models have eyes?
Apparently so.
I meant on just normal 40k.
Oh yeah, I got it. Yeah.
But yeah, so I I'm not sure. No one's come in with any questions anyway. So
No worries.
you got anything else, Si?
No, I think that's me. If there's anything else you want to tell us?
No, just please check out our website. AnnwnStudios.com. You can't, Annwn is the old Welsh word for like the other world. So, trying to keep that link there. We've got an Instagram, Facebook, and we're popping stuff up all the time. New sculpts, new paint jobs, and yeah, I'll get bored of painting these Eldar soon. So chuck something at me, and I'll paint it easily and quickly.
Oh, you did say as well just before we got started streaming that you might pop us a tutorial video on something like airbrushing.
Yeah, definitely.
Stream. So if you do find time between the Eldar to do that, then let us know. We'll chuck that up on our socials and let people see the magic in action.
Sounds good.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for joining us tonight, Ricky. You can let us know what the rest of the schedule for the week is.
Okay, so it's Monday, isn't it? I couldn't remember what day it was then. So Wednesday will be me and Simon doing the hobby stream. So come along, and I'm going to carry on with my Squigoth. So he's going to carry on with your giant squad thing.
If the gyrocopters arrived, I'll be putting that together. But if not, then I'm hoping to get the Leviathan sprayed this week, so I should be starting to put some paint on that.
Thursday, Sam has got the Magic the Gathering stream on her channel, but we stream from our channel. Friday is the group game. We haven't decided on one yet. It's looking like it's going to be Mario Kart. Saturday, we've got Stardew Valley and Pokemon, and that's our schedule for the rest of the week. I'll tell you what, we've had the only person we've had in the chat throughout who's added to the chat is Chris. So, Chris, if you can message us your address, and we'll pop you one of the hero clicks out in the post. The paint yourself hero clicks, X-Men hero clicks. Seeing as it's a paint-in stream, so we'll throw one of those out there. And thank you very much for your time.
Cheers. Thank you.
And we'll see you next time.